My grandfather caught an 18-kilo pacu using rotten cornmeal and fermented cassava. That's right, rotten. While everyone else was spending a fortune on imported pelleted feed, he prepared the bait in an old tin can in the backyard. The smell? Unbearable. The result? Monster fish that made the guys at the stores cry with envy. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any secrets from the old fisherman. Because what you're going to learn here can change your fishing forever. Some people are paying 80-90 Rs for ready-made bait that doesn't even catch small fish. Meanwhile, this forgotten method costs less than 10 Rs and works like a magnet for big fish. Want to know why they hid this from you? In the 60s and 70s, any serious fisherman in the interior knew how to make fermented bait. It wasn't a secret. It was basic. My father says that in the upper San Francisco region, every riverside family had a 20-liter drum fermenting in their backyard. The process took 5 to 7 days. The smell would let the whole neighborhood know that someone was going fishing on the weekend. And the results were incredible. Pacu, tambaki, huge carp, piao that you don't see anymore these days, fish weighing 10, 15, 20 kilos appeared with frightening frequency. It wasn't luck, it was method. The old folks knew exactly how long to ferment, what proportions to mix, when it was at the right point. They passed this knowledge from father to son. They would sit on the riverbank, take a handful of that smelly mass, throw it in the water, and wait. Sometimes I didn't even have to wait long. The fish would come in schools. In the Pantanal region, it was the same story. Professional fishermen used fermented bait to attract large catfish and other large catfish. They prepared it in plastic buckets that were left in the sun, accelerating fermentation. The result was a thick, dark brown paste with a smell that clung to clothes for days. But it worked. They threw this mixture into deep pools, and the big fish arrived in minutes. And not just a few fish. There were many, and big ones. There are records of fishing trips where they caught 50, 60 kilos of fish in a single afternoon. All with this simple technique that anyone could do at home. No course was needed. No expensive equipment was needed. All that was needed was time, patience, and the right ingredients. Fishing magazines from the 70s published these recipes regularly. It was common. Everyone knew. Then came the 80s, and everything changed. Suddenly, magazines stopped talking about fermented bait. Advertisements for ready-made doughs, industrialized feeds, and powdered attractants that you just needed to mix with water started appearing. Promises of cutting-edge technology and the secret formula of champions. Prices were high, but the marketing was strong. They showed professional fishermen with trophies, huge fish, and wide smiles. And at the bottom, there was always the same warning: use only certified products for best results. Translation: buy our product. The message was clear. Homemade fermented bait? Amateur stuff. A thing of the past? Something that doesn't work anymore? They said that fish had evolved, that they now needed balanced nutrition and specific amino acids. A blatant lie. The truth is much simpler and dirtier. Fermented bait doesn't make a profit for anyone. You make it at home. It costs a few reais. You use it again the following week. You don't need to buy it all the time. It doesn't generate loyal customers. It doesn't create dependency. The industry realized this quickly. If every fisherman made his own bait, what would fishing stores sell? Hooks and line? That doesn't pay the bills. So they created a system. First, they stopped teaching. Magazines that used to publish homemade recipes started only accepting advertisements for industrialized products. Second, they created a narrative. Fermented bait attracts small fish. It's dangerous for the environment. It can contaminate the water. None of this had a scientific basis. It was just manufactured fear to get you to open your wallet. Third, and most cleverly, they created the culture of the modern fisherman. That guy who only uses new equipment, only brand-name products, only updated techniques. Those who used old methods became the butt of jokes. Oh, you still use homemade bait? How old-fashioned. It worked. In 15 years, an entire generation of fishermen forgot how to do it. The old ones died taking the knowledge with them. The young ones grew up buying ready-made packages. And the industry? It made billions. Today you see fishermen spending 100 riets on ready-made bait that lasts 2 fishing trips. Meanwhile, fermented bait that costs 8 riets and lasts a whole month remained hidden, almost extinct. Almost. Because in the riverside communities of Tocantins, Araguaia, and the lower Amazon, this knowledge survived. Hidden, but alive. And now you're going to learn it. Let's get down to business. The basis of fermented bait is simple. You need 3 things: carbohydrates, protein, and time. Carbohydrates feed the bacteria that will ferment. Protein attracts the fish. Time makes the magic happen. Basic ingredients that work: 2 kilos of cornmeal, or coarse corn flour, 1 kilo of cassava flour, the coarse kind, not the fine kind, 500 grams of wheat bran, 300 grams of fish feed, any kind will do, even the cheapest, 2 ripe bananas, well mashed, 1 liter of chlorine-free water. Let the tap water sit for 24 hours so the chlorine evaporates. Total cost? Around 8 to 12 riets depending on the region. It will yield enough bait for 4 or 5 fishing trips easily. Take a 10-gallon bucket with a lid. Clean it well. First, add the cornmeal. Then the cassava flour. Mix it with your hands. Add the wheat bran. Mix again. Pour the feed on top and incorporate everything. Now comes the secret. Mash the bananas until they become a porridge and mix it into the dry mixture. Bananas have natural sugar that accelerates fermentation and gives a sweet smell that big fish love. Add the water little by little. You don't add it all at once. Mix well until it has the consistency of wet crumbs. It has to be pressed in your hand and form a ball that doesn't crumble easily, but also isn't soggy. If it's too dry, add more water. If it's too wet, add more bran. Close the bucket. It doesn't need to be airtight, just cover it to keep bugs out. Place it in a sunny spot for part of the day. This speeds up the process. For the first 2 days, there won't be any smell. That's normal. On the 3rd day, open the bucket and stir everything with a wooden spoon. You'll smell a sour odor starting. Perfect. That's the fermentation beginning. Close it again. On the 5th day, stir again. Now the smell is strong. Sour, somewhat alcoholic, sticky. The mass has changed color, becoming darker and more moist. There's a layer of liquid on top. Don't remove this liquid. It's pure gold. It's what has the concentrated smell that attracts fish from afar. On the 7th day, it's ready. Open the bucket, and it's ready to use. The smell will be heavy, strong. Your neighbors will complain. Great. It means it's ready. But there are ways to boost it, and a lot. First secret that the old folks used: add 3 tablespoons of coarse salt to the initial mixture. The salt regulates fermentation and provides salinity that mimics the fish's natural food. Second, add 2 tablespoons of brown sugar on the 3rd day when you stir. The sugar feeds the bacteria and creates more alcohol, which the fish can smell from miles away. Third, and this one is devastating for pacu and tambaki, add 200 grams of ground roasted peanuts. Just put it in a blender until it becomes a coarse flour. Mix it in on the 5th day. The peanuts have oil that stays on the surface of the water and creates a scent trail that big fish can't resist. 4th secret, if you're fishing for carp or catfish, add 100 grams of dried cow's blood. You can buy it at a feed store. Dissolve it in warm water and mix it in on the 6th day. The smell of blood activates the predatory instinct of big fish. There are fishermen on the Araguaia River who add sour cassava starch, 2 cups on the 2nd day. He says the starch ferments quickly and creates bubbles that rise in the water, spreading the smell faster. It really works. Others add chopped orange peel. The peel has essential oil that mixes with the fermentation and gives a citrus scent that attracts piaus and piracanjubas from afar. In the Pantanal, some people add chopped chicken giblets. They put them in at the beginning of fermentation. The result is disgusting. But for pintado and cachorra, it's irresistible. The quantity matters. Each extra ingredient should be at most 10% of the total weight of the dough. If you overdo it, it throws it off balance and can even kill the fermentation. Timing also matters. Fermented bait works best in the late afternoon and evening. Why? Because the aroma spreads more when the water is still and the temperature drops. Early morning also works, but less so. Forget about midday. Strong sunlight hinders the dispersion of the aroma. Waxing and full moons are the best. Large fish become more active, searching for food. Waning and new moons still work, but the results drop by about 30%. Water temperature? Between 24 and 28 degrees Celsius is ideal. In cold water, below 20 degrees Celsius, the fish become sluggish and don't respond well. In very hot water, above 30 degrees Celsius, they go to the bottom and become lethargic. Equipment: large hook, size 2 or 3 minimum. Big fish have big mouths, line 0.40 mm or thicker. There's no point in preparing bait for a monster fish and using equipment for a small fish. Sliding sinker of 20 to 40 grams depending on the current. The bait sinks slowly, creating a cloud of particles. You want the bait to stay in the middle of this cloud, about 20 centimeters from the bottom. How to use? When you arrive at the fishing spot, throw 3 balls the size of oranges where you are going to fish. Wait 15 minutes, then throw 2 more every 10 minutes. This creates a zone of constant attraction. Place the bait. It can be dough from the bait itself, worms, corn, whatever you want, right in the center of this area. Now wait. And you can wait sitting down. Because when the big fish arrive, there's no mistake. You'll know. The science behind this is straightforward. Fish have nostrils. It's that simple. But they aren't nostrils like ours. They are extremely sensitive olfactory cavities. A pacu fish can detect a molecule of amino acid diluted in 1 million liters of water. It's like smelling barbecue from 50 kilometers away. Fermented bait produces hundreds of volatile compounds during the process. Ethyl alcohol, lactic acid, acetic acid, acetaldehyde, diacetyl. Each of these compounds dissolves in the water and creates an olfactory gradient. The fish follows this gradient like a dog follows the smell of food. The more fermented, the more volatile compounds. The more compounds, the farther the smell travels. The banana you added? It has sugars that turn into alcohol. And alcohol in low concentrations, like in bait, stimulates the taste receptors of fish. It's like giving an appetizer before the main course. It whets the appetite. Corn and wheat bran, when fermented, release free amino acids. These amino acids are exactly what fish look for in natural foods. Larvae, aquatic insects, small crustaceans all release amino acids into the water. Bait mimics this perfectly. When you add feed, You're adding animal protein. Fish are opportunistic. Animal protein means a hearty meal. Their brains associate that complex smell with good, easy food. There's more. Fermentation creates lactic acid. This acid lowers the pH of the water around the bait. Large fish associate slightly acidic water with the presence of decomposing organic matter, which attracts small fish and crustaceans. In other words, where there is fermented bait, large fish expect to find small fish. It's a double trap. And the best part? The industry knows all this. That's why it tries to replicate these compounds in the laboratory. But it can't, because natural fermentation is chaotic. It creates thousands of compounds in proportions that vary with each batch. It's impossible to replicate on an industrial scale. That's why shelf-stable products never work the same. They lack the chemical complexity of real fermentation. Some people say, but fish feed has amino acids. Yes, it does. But they are dry, stabilized amino acids that dissolve slowly. Fermented bait has free amino acids, already dissolved, ready to spread in the water. The difference is between giving water to someone who is thirsty and giving them a tablet that turns to water in 30 minutes. The effect is immediate with bait. Another myth: fermentation contaminates the water. That's a lie. The amount of organic matter you add is minimal compared to the volume of the river or lake. Fish eat the bait in minutes. Nothing is left to rot. It has less impact than adding pelleted feed, which doesn't dissolve and accumulates at the bottom. Now let's talk about money. A kilo of ready-made bait from a well-known brand costs between 35 and 50 reais. It lasts 2, maybe 3 fishing trips at most if you use it properly. That's about 70 to 100 reais per month if you fish every weekend. A batch of fermented bait, 10 reais. It easily lasts 5 fishing trips, sometimes more if you store it properly in the refrigerator. Seal it well and put it in the bottom part. That's 40 reais per month, being generous. Savings of 60 reais per month. Seems like little? Multiply that by 12 months. That's 720 reais per year. Almost the price of a complete new fishing setup. Do you know why the store doesn't sell this? Because it can't be packaged. Fermented barley is alive. It continues to ferment. If you seal it in a plastic bag, in 2 days, the bag will burst from the pressure of the gases. If you put it in a jar and seal it airtight, the jar will crack. It needs a pressure relief valve. Too expensive to produce on a large scale. Shelf life? At most 15 days outside the refrigerator. After that, the fermentation goes too far and becomes too acidic, burning the fish's mouth. Logistics are impossible. You would have to produce locally, sell quickly, and guarantee refrigeration. Profit margin? Minimal. No store wants to sell a product that the customer makes at home spending 1/10 of the price. It's commercial suicide. So the industry created ready-made doughs. Dehydrated flour with artificial flavorings. You add water and it's ready. Convenient? Yes. Effective? Not even close. These doughs have a synthetic aroma that imitates fermentation. But it's a crude imitation. It's like comparing natural orange juice to Tang. The fish can tell the difference. They have receptors that detect synthetic and natural compounds differently. Does ready-made dough work? Yes. Does it catch fish? Yes. But it catches the small ones, the less clever ones, the ones that are very hungry. Big, old, experienced fish? They're suspicious. They've been through this before. They've been hooked, gotten away, learned. When they smell that artificial scent, they think twice. Natural fermented bait? No doubt about it. It smells like real food. Big fish relax, approach, and eat without fear. And when they eat, they really eat. They don't just nibble. They swallow. That's why big hooks work. The system was built for you to spend money, to buy bait every week, to buy powdered attractants, to buy flavor enhancers, to buy. You become dependent, and the industry gets rich. Meanwhile, the method that really works, that costs almost nothing, that catches the biggest fish, has remained buried. Until now. Next week, you're going fishing. Do the following. Prepare the fermented bait today. Start the process on Monday. Stir it on Wednesday. Stir it again on Friday. By Saturday, it's perfect. Go to the river or lake where you usually fish. That place you've been to 10 times and only caught small fish. Do exactly as I said. Throw in 3 balls of bait the size of oranges. Wait 15 minutes. Throw in 2 more. Put the line with the bait in the middle. Sit down. Wait. When you catch your first fish over 3 kilos, and you will, you'll remember this moment. You'll remember that you spent 10 reais instead of 50. You'll remember that you used the knowledge they tried to erase. If you fish with a small hook, you'll lose the big fish. If you use thin line, it will break. If you don't have the patience to wait the first 15 minutes, you'll be fishing in vain. But if you do it right, if you follow the complete method, the result is guaranteed. It's not a promise. It's decades of observation. It's what worked for my grandfather, for his father, for the riverside dwellers who still make a living from it today. Store the bait in the refrigerator in a tightly sealed container. It lasts up to 20 days. When you use it again, let it return to room temperature. Never use it cold directly in the water. Fish don't like thermal shock. Our grandparents knew how to fish properly, without GPS, without a depth sounder, without imported carbon rods, with vines, iron hooks, and knowledge passed down through generations. They didn't need a fishing store. They made everything. The bait, the melted lead, some even forged their own hooks. And they caught more fish than any expert today, with all their expensive equipment. This knowledge is dying. The old folks are almost all gone. No one listens to those who remain. They think it's old people's talk, outdated stuff. But it's exactly the opposite. It's knowledge tested, refined, perfected over centuries. It works because it's real. It's not marketing. It's not a salesman's promise. It's a proven method. When you make your own fermented bait, you break free from the system. You no longer need the store. You no longer need expensive products. You become independent. And you fish better. Much better. The biggest fish you'll ever catch will come with this technique. Mark my words. It's not luck. It's not coincidence. It's chemistry. It's biology. It's ancestral wisdom that works, because it was designed to work. The industry wants you dependent, buying every week. But you don't need that. You have everything you need now. Knowledge, method, and less than 10 reais. Why do you think they stopped teaching this in magazines? Why did the homemade recipes disappear? Why did they shove ready-made bait down our throats for 40 years? Money. It's always been about money. Being independent doesn't generate profit. Making your own bait doesn't buy products. Fishing well with a cheap method doesn't mean you go back to the store every week. So they tried to erase it. They almost succeeded. But true knowledge doesn't die. It stays hidden. It survives on the fringes. And now it's coming back. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications. Leave a like. Share with that friend who's always complaining about not catching big fish. Comment below what was the biggest fish you've ever caught and what bait you used. I want to know if you've ever used fermented bait or if you're going to try it for the first time. Next week, there's more old school secrets. And I guarantee you'll never fish the same way again.